Yes, people, what's going on? I am Jay London. Welcome back to FPL of the day. Welcome back from the game week from hell. Or the last 2 game weeks from hell. If, like me, you captained Dennis in the last game week and the game week before that and don't own Bruno Fernandes. It's been a tough time. It's been a tough time. But we're not focusing on that. We're looking forward. We're looking ahead. We've got a little bit of a break before game week 24. So we're going to be throwing out the content and starting with the ultimate wildcard draft for game week 24. I'm going to be having a look at some of the template players, a lot of the popular players that people are going to be bringing in, and we're going to be switching it up a little bit as well and talking about some differentials and some punts too. So before we begin, please do subscribe. It's what I always ask you to do. I think we're like 7 subscribers away from our target of 250. Once you've done that, give it a little like, get comfortable, and let's do it. The ultimate wildcard draft for game week 24. Blow! So before we start looking at players, we need to have a look at the fixtures to make sure that we're picking people that are going to be in our teams that have got some good games coming up. So we know the likes of Villa, Spurs, Leicester, Leeds, Everton, Brighton have all got games to be rearranged. There's quite a few people. The only people that don't have games to rearrange, the only team that doesn't, I think, is like Chelsea at the moment. Man United was expected to have one announced before game week 25 as well. So we're going to be keeping a lookout for that. And of course, Burnley have got like the whole season to rearrange. So I don't know if there's any Burnley players that you are considering, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. But at the moment, have a look at this on the screen. You can access this on Fantasy Premier League on the website, but if not, you can just pause this, take a screenshot or whatever. And the idea, I guess, is that we're looking for the green fixtures, right? Aston Villa, we know I've got some doubles coming up. Leeds next, Newcastle, Watford all to play, Southampton in there as well. Once you've done that, once you've digested this, let's have a look, and then you'll see some of the reasoning and the logic behind the ultimate wildcard that we've gone with for game week 24. So let's get it up on the screen, and we're going to start like this. We do this all the time. You know that there's going to be a couple of players that are not likely to play that we need in our teams to just allow us to spread the money around and make sure that we've got a really, really strong team. In this case, maybe a strong midfield. Yeah, you'll see as we go along. So yeah, Foster, he's one of the cheapest playing keepers in the game, 4.1. And Richardson, yeah, he plays for Burnley. We know they've got like about 10 games to rearrange. He's the cheapest striker, I think, at the moment for 4.4. So yeah, it does what it says on the tin. They're there to make sure that we have enough money to spread around the rest of the pitch. So let's kick it off with our goalkeeper, Sanchez. We had him at the beginning and then we got rid of him. We've got De Gea, who's been getting some good save points, to be fair, to be honest. But yeah, Sanchez looks like the most reliable person that has been there for me and my team since the start of the season. He does blank in the next game week. So yeah, you've got 2 choices here. You could either go with a different keeper, maybe like a Ramsdale. I'll probably play Foster if it's me, because I don't want to be making transfers that early. Once you've done a wild card, I guess the idea is to make sure that you're not having to use any transfers for the next couple of game weeks, and you want to make sure that you've got a strong bench as well, just in case you want a bench boost. So yeah, Sanchez, the keeper of choice for now. Let's go straight into the defense. Dalot is the first person on the team sheet. Now, as you can see, I've got the fixtures underneath the players, so you can see exactly what's going on. Dalot's in there because he's playing Burnley, Southampton, Leeds and Watford. Yeah, those are the next games, and we know that Manchester United have got some games to rearrange. He's only 4.5, so even if he doesn't play, he's a great person to have on your bench, and then you can bring him on if you do fancy some of those double game weeks that they do have coming up. I'm not 100%, actually I'm going to change that. I'm not confident in Manchester United's defence at all. I am 0% confident in Manchester United defence, but for the price and for the fixtures, Dalot looks like a good pick. That is all that he's there for. You can play him if you want, or you can leave him on the bench, but for 4.5, I feel like he is the best option. All right. Next up, I'm going to go with 2 defenders from the same team, Aymeric Laporte and Cancelo. Now, Cancelo has obviously been there from the beginning. He's been nothing but amazing since the start of the season. But yeah, last game week, he didn't really do too much. Game week from hell, we're going to ignore that, put a line under it. But yeah, Cancelo, still probably the most attacking fullback in the league. And yeah, he's picked up quite a lot of points. Brentford next, Norwich, Tottenham, Everton, Man United. I mean, to be fair, it doesn't even matter who Manchester City are going to be playing, because we all know what they can do. They can do it to anyone, and Cancelo is definitely not going anywhere. Laporte's the guy that so many people are going to be bringing in with their wildcard. So I'm predicting he's going to be a very, very, very highly owned asset going into game week 24, 25. Mainly because his price. Also because he scored the last game and because he's got like 10 returns in the last 10 games or something like that. He's been ridiculous. And as I say, those Manchester City fixtures coming up look pretty good. 5.7. He's an easy swap straight if you've still got Alonso. Alonso straight out, Laporte straight in. Next up is, of course, Alexander-Arnold. We wasn't going to make a wildcard draft without Alexander-Arnold. He was going nowhere. You know, if you haven't got Alexander-Arnold in your team, I still don't know what you're doing. Alexander-Arnold just doesn't disappoint week in, week out. If you don't have him, he's going to sting you. Like, I experienced it for a few games myself because I took him out when he got injured and then I had to bring him back in. But yeah, Alexander-Arnold, I don't need to say too much about him. He stays in the team. And last but not least, in defence, is the guy that everybody is talking about right now, Luca Dean. The fact that Target transferred himself out in the last game week probably shows that Target has had a conversation with the manager and he knows that Luca Dean is going to be pretty much nailed now throughout the rest of the season. Not only that, he's getting assists already. We all know what he was capable of doing in his last season when he was just smashing it. Yeah, so yeah, Leeds, Newcastle, Watford, Brighton and Southampton, all of them are green apart from Brighton, but in my opinion that could be a 0-0 there as well. Moving on to midfield, we have the young Jedi, Phil Foden, a player that I haven't had in my team the whole season. I think maybe 1 or 2 game weeks and then he got injured or he was out of favour or he was out partying or whatever. Woo! Brentford, Norwich, Tottenham, Everton, they look like good games to me. So we're expecting Foden to keep playing. Grealish isn't really hitting the heights that we expected him to, which is probably a good thing for Phil Foden. And then you've got Raheem Sterling. Bernardo Silva can play right across the midfield. Jesus doesn't look like his first choice, so Foden does look like he's going to be getting a lot of game time, and Manchester City do have quite a few games coming up in quick succession. I'd be a little bit worried going into a wildcard draft without Phil Foden at the moment. He could be replaced because there's a lot of players that could go there, especially for 8 million, but he's got such a high ceiling. Once he gets on it, and once Manchester City start firing goals against the likes of Brentford and Norwich, and as you can see, we've got 3 Manchester City players there. We can't get in Kevin De Bruyne. Foden's got to be in the team, right? Moving on, Rafinha, another person who is going to be very highly owned going into game week 24 and 25, so long as he hasn't moved. As it stands, if he is staying at Leeds, yeah, and he's not going to Bayern Munich and he isn't a German footballer, then yeah, he needs to be in your team because Leeds have got some doubles coming up. Bamford's going to be back for game week 24, we hope, and that only just increases the chances of Rafinha getting points. Now, the next player in midfield is a little bit debatable. I've gone for Jota. He's actually been getting on my nerves a little bit. I know he got an assist in the last game week, which was really, really lucky because I don't even know if that was a penalty. He just seems to be scoring goals outside of the league and then just not doing much in the league. But you know what happens? As soon as you take out a player like that, then they just start firing on all cylinders. So as it stands, Jota is in the ultimate wildcard team for game week 24. There's a lot of talk about going for Andy Robinson instead of Jota and then putting somebody else in that midfield, which could be a Maddison, a Buendia, even a Ramsey if you want to go for a punt there, which I'm not mad at. I'm not angry about that at all. If that is your idea and you actually want to go more with the Liverpool fullbacks, then there's nothing wrong with that at all. But for me, I'd be a little bit worried if I didn't have Jota in my team. So yeah. And obviously, while we're talking about Liverpool, we expect the next man to be back, Mohamed Salah. Now, if you are a fan and you are a subscriber of FPL of the day, then you'll know that I've been telling you since the start of the season, if you don't own Salah, then get out. Just get out. Just forget about it because he has to be in your team. He's got Leicester next, Burnley, Norwich. Then they do blank, but there is some talk that Liverpool might actually double in game week 25. And yeah, if he's back and he's fresh from AFCON and he can actually play and he's ready to go, then he needs to be in your team. Can you imagine not having Salah against Burnley and Norwich and watching that game? But as it stands, we're going to make this draft with the expectation that Salah is going to be back and he's going to be ready to go. So he's got to be in the team. And last but not least, in midfield, which is nice and beefy, right? Gerard Bowen completes the 5. Forget big at the back now. We're going big in the middle and pretty big at the back as well, to be fair. But yeah, Gerard Bowen, Again, don't need to say too much about him. He has been on absolute fire the last few games. It'd be silly to go into a wildcard draft and not have him in the team. He's an easy switch out. If he does start underperforming, we could easily switch him to a Buendia. Gerard Bowen looks to be involved in most of West Ham's attacking returns. So yeah, I'm expecting him to continue that. And for 6.7 mil, depending on the time that you bought him, he's a really good asset to have. Now the strikers on a wildcard draft is something we're going to be talking about for a very long time. Yeah. Antonio is a person that I'm sticking with because of those West Ham fixtures coming up. Watford, Leicester, Newcastle and Wolves. And I'm pretty confident that the form that he's been on can only get better. Obviously, we know, looking at the stats, I won't go too much into it, but he performs really well against the weaker oppositions and doesn't do so well against the stronger oppositions, which is probably why he hasn't had that many returns in the last few games of late. Yeah, but going into those fixtures, as West Ham continue to try and challenge for the top four, Antonio seems like he's a really, really good pick. And I think coming up towards the end of the season, he's going to find his form again. So yeah, you could go for a Dominic Calvert-Lewin if you're a little bit more confident there. Everton do have a couple of games to be rearranged as well. But as it stands, I just haven't seen enough from DCL to put him in over Antonio. So yeah, Antonio keeps his spot in the team, in the Ultimate Wildcard Draft. And last but not least, to complete that, we stick with the double game weeks and we go with Ollie Watkins. Look at those fixtures. Just look at them. We've spoken about them before. Leeds, Newcastle, Brighton and Southampton. They're all green as far as I'm concerned. Ollie Watkins for the same price, 7.7. Now that Coutinho's there, Buendia's on fire, Ramsey's playing really well, and Gerrard looks to actually have them playing really, really well at the moment. Watkins seems to be the smart choice. Also putting into consideration that he has a couple of game weeks coming up. Disclaimer. I don't like Ollie Watkins in FPL, yeah? Nothing against him in person, never met the guy. But last season, he trolled me for a long time, yeah? And Ollie Watkins, every time I put him in the team, he'd blank. Every time I take him out, he'd get a haul and he'd get loads of points. He was missing sitters and everything. But yeah, one thing that I've learned in FPL is you can't hold grudges and you cannot hang on to those kind of feelings, which maybe didn't really work out with the Dennis situation last game week. But yeah, we're not going to talk about that. Sorry to remind you. But yeah, Ollie Watkins, I guess it would be silly to go without him, knowing that Aston Villa have got those games coming up. Luca Dean's firing crosses into the box as well. And they've got a double to be rearranged as well. So yeah, I think Ollie Watkins is probably the most important striker and the most important asset, I'll go as far as saying, once you're making your wildcard draft. So looking at this team, you can see it's pretty much the ultimate template, the ultimate wildcard going into game week 24. But I'm not just about the ultimate templates. I'm not about safety. I like to take a little bit of a punt and a little bit of a differential. And I did ask you guys on Twitter what you wanted to see. And I know you're with me as well. So if you want to go for safe and you want to go for highly owned players and you want to go for the template, the new template, then this is pretty much going to be the team, yeah. But if you want to go for a bit of a punt, you can actually go for something like this. A wildcard draft with Mohamed Salah and Kevin De Bruyne in your midfield. Strong. Rafinha's still in there. Ramsey's looked like a really, really good enabler. Bowen's still in there. The defence consists of Robinson, Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo, Luca Dean, Laporte, our goalkeeper still there. And then up front is where we have a load of fun because we've got Broja in there who's been performing really, really well for Southampton throughout the season. Vidra has got those games to be rescheduled for Burnley, yeah? They've got like about 10 games to rearrange. And Mopé, who's got some good fixtures coming up and also a double game week to be rearranged. This, for me, is a lot more exciting. It's a lot more exciting than the template team that we just spoken about. But what I wanted to do is make sure that you had both. I mean, why would you go for a template team when you could have fun? I mean, as long as you haven't got Dennis in your team, everything's all right? FPL is supposed to be all about fun. But no, in all seriousness, I wanted to make sure you got both. You've got the template team that is going to be the players that are going to be highly owned and in pretty much everyone's team. And then you've got the team full of punts, full of differentials, the exciting team, the people like Vidra and Mopé up front. Come on. How much more do you want? I wanted to make sure that you had both of them so you can think about some of the different options and some of the guys that you can be bringing in because you don't always have to go with the template. But if you want to play it safe, you've got both of them there. I know what one I would go for. Let me know what one you would go for down in the comments below. So there we go. There we have it. That is the ultimate wildcard draft for Game Week 24. Thank you so much for watching. As I say, there's 2 there. I couldn't just do a template team full of just like highly owned players and not have a little bit of fun with it and put in like a team which is really exciting, right? Imagine having Salah and De Bruyne every single week and then a nice differential for Vidra. Imagine if Vidra scores a goal and you just know that he's in your team and in nobody else's. Yeah, but let me know in the comments. What would you do? What players are you eyeing up? Who are you going for? What draft do you think is going to be better? As we go through this break, I'm going to make sure that I continue the content. I'm going to release another wildcard draft, maybe one just full of differentials. But let me know what you want down in the comments below. Or maybe I'll touch a little bit more on that draft, the second wildcard draft that I showed you there, full of the punts. And we'll speak a little bit more about that. As always, before you go, if you did enjoy the content, please do subscribe. I need all the help that I can get. And a big thank you to everybody that's been getting involved on Twitter, on the FPLOTD Twitter. Loving the interactions, loving you guys for subscribing and the new subscribers in the comments down below. Good luck, and I'll see you on the next one. Don't worry, I'm with you all the way until the next game week. All right, I'll see you then.